On Wednesday of this week, a tragic and shocking event took place in Rizano Garcia. A blogger, known by the name of Mano Shottas, a Mozambican musician promoting positive music, lost his life while streaming a live broadcast on social media. He was recording a simple transmission, unaware that this would be his last. During the stream, he was brutally shot by the police. This event sparked immense outrage across the entire area where it occurred, raising questions about the treatment of the population by the authorities and the ongoing police violence. These are the very forces that should be ensuring the peace and safety of the people of Mozambique. How does this reflect the current situation in Mozambique? What do the recent protests and confrontations tell us about the state of the country? Stay with me until the end as we dive into what lies behind this tragedy and its impact on the struggle for justice and human rights in Mozambique. The blogger, known for his advocacy for peace and for sharing music that promoted positive messages, was shot while capturing a moment of tension between the police and the people. He was streaming with his phone, showing the massive presence of police officers in an area where there seemed to be no apparent reason for such repression. In attempting to document what was happening, the blogger became the victim of this violence. The incident not only shocked the local community but also triggered a wave of indignation, with the news rapidly spreading across social media. In a country where freedom of expression is already limited, this event further exposed the strained relationship between the population and the security forces. The loss of the blogger is more than just the death of an individual, it symbolizes the loss of a dream, of a life dedicated to the pursuit of peace and justice. He left behind his family, friends, and all those who identified with his struggle. Now, who will take care of his daughters and his wife? Who will provide support for those who lost a loved one in such a brutal manner? He is gone. But the consequences of this loss will resonate for a long time. A life interrupted by a simple live stream, a transmission that should have been just another moment of expression. This cannot be justified. A human life cannot be taken like this, especially under these circumstances. Justice in Mozambique, as it may be written in the law, is not what we see in practice. The government may try to make statements on social media, but in the end, the reality for the people is something entirely different. We are not seeing concrete actions, we are seeing only empty words. The tragedy of this blogger is a reflection of a political and police structure that fails to protect its own people. Instead of ensuring safety and peace, the police, in many cases, act recklessly and excessively, showing no respect for human life. This was exactly what happened that day. The police did not act as they should have. One protester, commenting on the police's behavior, stated, "You don't shoot like that, not even in the song," referring to the thoughtless and excessive behavior of the officers, who seemed to be engaged in an indiscriminate shooting exercise rather than fulfilling their duty of public order. With the death of the blogger, the protests in Rizano Garcia took on a new dimension. Protesters began organizing more strategically, using the early hours of the morning to protest in a more calculated manner. Fire and smoke began to dominate the streets, and violence escalated. Banks and other symbols of political power, particularly those associated with the Frelimo party, were also attacked, reflecting the public's discontent with the lack of justice and the government's failure to respond effectively. Many of the protesters believe that justice will never be served for the victims of police violence. The death of the blogger is seen as yet another example of a system that does not protect, but rather persecutes those who dare to question the status quo. For them, this is a fight for truth, for justice, and for freedom. Social media plays a crucial role in this process. Images and videos of the protests and police abuses are circulating rapidly, bringing visibility to what is happening. People are using these platforms to give voice to those who have been silenced by the repression. The question everyone is asking now is, will the government of Mozambique finally listen to the voices of the people? Or will the death of this blogger become just another statistic of police abuse that will be forgotten over time? Clearly, as the population continues to mobilize, Mozambique's future is at stake. The violence cannot be ignored, and the authorities must act decisively to prevent further tragedies. But the question remains, will anything really change? Will the security system and the police forces be held accountable for the abuses they have committed against the population? The fight for justice and for a fairer Mozambique is far from over, and if the pressure continues, perhaps we can see a better future. But that future depends on all of us, each and every one of us demanding change and fighting for the truth.